Okay, welcome everyone to the second instalment of Empire and Excavation, Critical Perspectives on Archaeology in British-period Cyprus, jointly organised by the British Museum and CAARI. Following our successful online venture in November, we have scheduled an additional 2 days of stimulating papers that we hope that you will find informative and enjoyable. We have with us today a large and international audience. For those that do not know, my name is Lindy Crew, I'm CAARI's director, and I'm very happy to welcome you all here. Some of you may not know CAARI. We're a non-profit organisation registered in the United States, and we've been operating on Cyprus for over 40 years. CAARI is the only international archaeological research centre on the island, and as such, we cater to the entire archaeological community, operating a hostel and library for visiting scholars and local people. We regularly host lectures, conferences, and an annual archaeological workshop during the summer. Since the time of the pandemic beginning, we've moved our events online, and these are now available to view at any time on our YouTube channel. You can see listed on the screen here, and please do take a look at some of the other events. I'll now be handing over to my two conference co-organisers, Thomas Kiley, Cyprus Curator in the Department of Greece and Rome at the British Museum, and Anna Reeve, PhD candidate at the University of Leeds, to say a few words and introduce our special guest. Firstly, I will give the floor to Thomas. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a very big and brief welcome from me. Again, people don't know who I am. I'm Thomas Kiley, the Aging Adventist Curator for Ancient Cyprus at the British Museum, we were very privileged to have at the first session back in November the presence of Mr. Stephen Lilly, the British High Commissioner in Cyprus, who opened the proceedings, and we thought for the second session today it would be highly appropriate to have a few words of welcome from the Cypriot High Commissioner in London, Mr. Andreas Kakouris. The original conference idea was scheduled to mark the 60th anniversary of the Republic of Cyprus, a very important event in the history of Cyprus. But we also wanted to stress the long and warm and fruitful collaborations between Britain and Cyprus in those past 60 years, and in particular the friendship and the generosity of the Cypriot community in supporting archaeological research in Britain. In the British Museum, we are especially grateful to the Leventis family and the A.G. Leventis Foundation for their magnificent generosity over the years. But the broader Cypriot community has always been very supportive. And also, of course, our links with the Cyprus High Commission in London have been abundant and fruitful as well. Over the past 10 or 15 years, we've had many collaborations of cultural events with successive cultural councillors, of whom Saras is the latest occupant of that role. But also we've had tremendous support from successive High Commissioners as well. So I'd just like to invite His Excellency Mr. Andreas Kakouris to say a few words of welcome to the conference today.
Thank you, Thomas, for that kind introduction and for referring to the close relations that exist, not only with the High Commission, but also with the community, and on a wider scale, the relations between Cyprus and the United Kingdom. Distinguished guests, friends, good morning, good afternoon, and for some, good evening. Firstly, I wish each and every one of you a happy and healthy 2021. And there can be no doubt that the challenges imposed on all of us by the COVID pandemic, and more especially its devastating effects through the loss of life, health issues, and the disruption of lives and livelihoods, is difficult to fathom. But I believe that at long last, we're beginning to see a light at the end of the tunnel as the rollout of the vaccination program gains traction. Hence, we must be hopeful that better days are coming soon. It is therefore with particular pleasure that I offer a few remarks to welcome you all to this virtual conference. It is the second part of the series of online events co-organized by the British Museum and the Cyprus American Archaeological Research Institute. As High Commissioner, I highly value the long-standing relationship that the Cyprus High Commission has had with the British Museum. This relationship has materialized through a number of successful academic and cultural events over the years, each time evolving and developing into new and innovative forms. I hope that this event marks the beginning of a collaboration between the High Commission and CAARI, as we value the significant work that it conducts on Cypriot archaeology. On a personal note, I have fond memories of first working with CAARI as a junior diplomat in New York in the mid-1980s, and in particular with Dr. Stuart Sweeney, who served as director of CAARI. Dear friends, in spite of the broad limitations forced upon researchers and archaeologists because of the pandemic, it is remarkable to witness the resilience of your sector in inventing new ways of communicating and exchanging research. We are indeed fortunate to have a first-class lineup of renowned scholars from around the world who have gathered together for this conference. I was also very pleased to see the names of friends with whom I've had the pleasure of working with in the past, such as Christine Morris and George Babandoniou from Trinity College Dublin, both of whom know my keen interest in showcasing the richness of the historical mosaic of Cyprus from my time serving in Ireland. The history of Cypriot archaeology as a discipline and the multifaceted social, political, and economic aspects of archaeological excavations on the island make for an exciting subject. After all, the history of Cypriot archaeology is of particular interest in diplomatic terms as well. One can say that the field of archaeological excavations on Cyprus was initiated by foreign diplomats before being systematized during the colonial era. The colonial period marks the establishment of the Cyprus Museum and the Department of Antiquities and the regulation of excavations and archaeological research. It marks the establishment of Cypriot archaeology as a distinct and academically significant discipline. One such prominent example was the Swedish Cyprus expedition from 1927 to 1931. A large part of the extensive and marvelous collection from Aierini is housed at the Medelhavsmuseum in Stockholm. And when I served as ambassador in Stockholm, I was always taken aback by the magnificence of the collection. I look forward to the presentation by Christian Goranson, as I do for all the presentations. On a personal note, I remember fondly a wonderful event organized in 2017 to mark the 90th anniversary of the expedition. Interestingly, one of the 20 locations that were excavated was the village of Stillus or Stilli near Famagusta, which today is in the occupied area. This was no ordinary excavation, since the then Crown Prince of Sweden, Gustav Adolf, participated in the excavation. It also happens to be my mother's village. Small world. Before I get totally carried away, I would like to offer special thanks to Doctors Thomas Keeley, Linda Crew, and Anna Reeve for organizing this conference, as well as to the British Museum and CAARI for facilitating and supporting it. I look forward to the presentations which aim at unearthing not only our country's unfathomable cultural wealth, but also the manner in which our ancient material culture has been brought to light in the modern era, the people involved, the tensions and intricacies, the popular and academic reception, the dispersion, manipulation, and development of archaeology in the service of politics, all of which are so significant for a better understanding of both our past and present. In ending, I wish you all a successful conference and would like to thank you all for your continued interest and engagement with Cyprus, this small but culturally and historically highly important locale, an archaeologist's playground where the indelible footprint of history is there for all to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those kind words of welcome. Good morning, everybody, and welcome from me. For those who don't know me, I'm Anna Reeve. I'm a PhD student at the University of Leeds and one of the organisers of this conference. We're very much looking forward to the next 2 days, and I'd like to thank you all, and particularly our presenters, for joining us today. As you'll have seen from the programme, we have 2 panels of papers on each day, and in order to make the best use of our time, the papers will be presented back to back without a break in between, and then we'll have a longer session for questions and discussions at the end of each panel. So as Lindy says, please do keep the questions and comments coming during the presentations, and we'll then relay them to speakers at the end. Feel free to tweet as well on the #HisDarkCyprus hashtag if that's your thing. We've got a lot of papers to get through, so we would be very grateful if our speakers could keep to time. In order not to interrupt the presentations, we will give a signal which will sound like this. Oops. If you're out of time. So if you hear that signal, we'd be very grateful if you could bring your paper to a close in order to make sure we've got time to hear from everybody and have some discussion. So without further ado, I would like to